Hello everyone and welcome to another Midweek Digest here on the Kickabout Podcast. My name is Chris and this week we're going to talk about another couple of topics. We're going to talk about Arsenal and their quest to win the league or get silverware this year. We're also going to talk about the battle for relegation, or the final battle for the relegation spot, and we're going to briefly talk about Chelsea. But before we do all of that, of course, please make sure that you've given this channel a like, or this video a like and a comment. If you do enjoy, let me know your thoughts on this. It really does help, and hit that subscribe button as well. If you're into retro video games, we are about to record season 6 of LMA Manager. For those of you that used to play that back in the day, it was a massive part of my childhood. I absolutely loved that game when I was younger, and me and Dan from the show are having an absolute blast and have cultivated a little bit of a cult following playing this. So if you are interested in it, all the episodes are currently on our channel, and season 6 will be releasing towards the back end of this month. And finally, every Tuesday we release our actual podcast. It goes live about 6 o'clock in the morning, so it's ready for your commute to work. We had another great show this week talking about lots of different things, as we always do, so please give that a listen. You can get it on all of the major podcast apps, so it'd be great if you could give it a listen to see what you think. Okay, so without any further ado, we're going to start off today. We're going to talk about Arsenal because I feel like it's worth pointing out the positive news, or the positive state of affairs with them, especially when compared to last season. Now, last season, of course, they were in a slightly different position because they were leading the pack, and the pack was made up of just Man City last year. And they obviously hit a wall. Multitude of reasons perhaps that it caused that, whether it's the injuries, whether it's just a drop of form, etc, or just the pressure of being in front in a title race that their young squad hadn't really been in before. They fell away, and it was the ultimate kind of embarrassment. I mean, that's probably a bit of a strong word, but being that far in front and to throw it away like they did in the manner that they did, they lost the league rather than Man City won it, is probably the best way to say it. This year, though, it definitely feels like there's something different in the air, and I put it down to a couple of factors. I think that the overall team experience has gone up that notch. The vast majority of that squad is still there from last season, and they have clearly, in my opinion, learnt from that. They've taken the experiences from last season and they've improved. They've become more robust. They've become able to grind out results more. We've actually been saying on the podcast this season that up until probably the last month or two, where they've really put their foot down on the accelerator, it hasn't really felt like Arsenal have really got going this year. It's weird that, we got used to the Arsenal swashbuckling style of last year, and now they were blowing teams away, playing this amazing football. And for a decent chunk of this season, they've not really been doing that. They've been sort of doing it in patches. They've been scraping through games, getting results. But then in the last month or two, they've really put their foot down again, and they seem to have completely found their form again, and they look in a really, really good spot right now with 10 games to go. Now, I want to point out Kai Havertz as one small factor in this big kind of or one small cog in this big wheel. I'm not saying for 1 minute here that he is like the most important player for Arsenal, but he's chipped in with some important goals recently, and I feel like at the start of the season, rightly so, we were questioning it. Everyone was questioning it. You spend that sort of money, was it 70 odd million or something like that on Kai Havertz? Everybody was raising eyebrows. Chelsea were probably laughing all the way to the bank at that point. And it very much felt like a very odd transfer because we were struggling to see where Kai Havertz would fit into that Arsenal team. Now, has he given you a return? I'm not sure he has, not yet, but he's getting closer. Performances are a bit more consistent. He's chipping in with good goals. He's getting assists. So I feel like he can no longer be put in the bracket of bad signings or flops of the season, whatever you want to call it. I don't feel like he's in that category anymore. I think he's in between the bracket of being a flop and being great value for money. I think he's somewhere in that middle at the moment. And if he continues to grow this season, if he can chip in with some more goals and assists before the end of the season, then I think he probably will go into that bracket of good value for money. And for some of you, he may well already be in there, especially Arsenal fans. You may feel like you've already gotten good value for money. But one player who has certainly given you value for money is Declan Rice. I don't think it's coincidental that Declan Rice comes in and the team starts performing the way they do. I feel like Rice has brought a level of maturity despite his young age. He's got a wise head on his shoulders, and I feel like his maturity, his ability to just sort of calm things down in that midfield has been of massive benefit to Arsenal. I think that despite the fact that he cost the thick end of 100 million or whatever it was in the end, you've got to put him in the bracket for one of the signings of the season because of the benefits and the positivity that he's brought to Arsenal. I don't think you can really claim that. The very fact that at almost no point, apart from right at the very start where a few questions were being asked, at no point since then has anybody questioned. I've not seen a single person question his value. I've not seen a single person question the fact that Arsenal paid 100 odd million for him and question whether or not he's been worth it. Not a single one. And that is testament to how good he has been, how seamlessly he has slipped into that Arsenal team. And the one thing that, you know, bugs me a little bit is the way in which everyone says, oh my God, he's such a more amazing player now. He's not. He's doing for Arsenal exactly what he did for West Ham. It's just that in West Ham, he was a big fish in a little pond. And Arsenal now, he is a sort of medium-sized fish in a big pond. And it feels to me like, because he's doing it on the Champions League stage and he's doing it on the big stage in big games, fine. You know, I'm more than happy to say that he's improved. He undoubtedly has. To do it at that level on Champions League stage, etc., obviously shows an improvement. But the one thing he really has improved on is his goals. And, you know, at West Ham, the way in which David Moyes plays, you get less chances, right? Because you play a defensive mentality, you play on the counter, you're not going to get as many chances. Arsenal don't do that. They play a possession, progressive style of football, and Declan Rice seemingly over the last month or two has been given a little bit more free rein to get forward, and that has resulted in more goals. And that was really the only thing lacking from his game, because he's always been a strong runner with the ball. He can spray passes around, he can control the game, he can break it up, he can win headers, he can do it all. And at his young age, I mean, he's only, 24, 25, I think he is, something like that. I mean, his future, not just for Arsenal, but for England as well, is massive. And he has been one of the big reasons this season, I think, throughout all of the other periods of the season where other players were in and out of form. Bukayo Saka had a down, period of where his form was down. Odegaard has had periods where he was down in form. Martinelli has as well. It always felt to me like Rice was the one consistent. He doesn't ever seem to put in a performance that is less than a 7 out of 10. He's always there. He's always giving you what you expect. And he's in that bracket for me. We used to say these things about players like Claude Makelele back in the day, that you sort of like the unsung hero. He would do all the stuff that you needed that player to do, but do it without any fuss. Didn't do it for the accolades. He would just get on and do it and help his team. And I think Declan Rice is in that mould. He is in that Makelele mould. Kante did it for a while at Chelsea. He was that unsung hero. I can't really sing Declan Rice's praises high enough. I'm still sad that he's not at West Ham doing it, but I think the writing was on the wall. He was always going to leave us, whether it was for Arsenal or for somebody else, in the same way that Paquetá will probably leave us at some point. It's just, the nature of where we are in the food chain, right? It's, these players want to go and play at the highest level, and if they can, they will. So, yeah, and as far as the title goes, I mean, we are in, as a neutral here, without really a dog in this fight, we are in for a treat in these last 10 games. There is 1 point separating the top 3 right now, and honestly, I couldn't pick a winner. I mean, on form right now, Arsenal are the team to beat. I did hear I think it was Danny Murphy on BBC was saying that Liverpool are in the driving seat because if they win all of their games between now and the end of the season, he thinks they'll win the league, because he doesn't think that Arsenal will beat Man City, which is a big claim right now. Man City do look vulnerable at the back at times. They've had some games where they've blown teams away, but they've also had a lot of games where they've not really turned up in games. They've been wasteful. So I don't think it's as done deal as Danny Murphy seems to think it is, that Arsenal won't beat Man City. They've already beaten it once this year, let's not forget, at Arsenal. So I think this is, whenever that game is, let me just check when that fixture is. Let me just go and have a quick look here. It's the next Premier League fixture for Arsenal. It's the 31st of March, so it's after the FA Cup this weekend, and then I think there's an international break. 31st of March, Sunday, 4:30, Manchester City versus Arsenal. What a game that is going to be. I still don't think, because of how close those teams are, I don't think that it's going to be a decider. I don't think it's going to win, decide the league. I think there's going to be more twists. There are going to be where you drop points, because a draw is a big thing now. When it's this tight and everybody is kind of gunning for this, or these three teams, a draw is a big thing. So I don't necessarily think it's going to be a team losing per se, but a draw is just as bad. So I don't think the winner of this match, I don't think they suddenly go on and win the league. I think psychologically it's a massive boost to whoever wins this. It's still going to be a massive game, and I feel like this is a one not to miss. As far as Arsenal are concerned and what they've got coming up for the rest of the season, they've still got a North London derby to contend with. Tottenham, I think, have got to play City, Arsenal and Liverpool before the end of the season, so they're going to have potentially a big say in this run-in. Arsenal have also got to play Luton, who are scrapping for their lives, Brighton and Villa, who are pushing for Europe. They've got Manchester United, always a big game, always a big rivalry, and that's at Old Trafford. So, and then Everton as well in the last game of the season. They could still be fighting for their lives at that point as well, who knows. So this season has got an awful lot of running to go. For me, the result of this game on the 31st of March, whilst it's important, psychologically, as I said, it's not going to decide the league, so let's not build this to something that it's not. It's going to be a huge spectacle. It's going to be an unmissable game, I feel like. And depending on how that result pans out, I mean, if one team batters the other, psychologically that's going to be massive, but I still don't think it's going to decide anything unless that psychologically puts them into a poor place, for the future games, and they start losing more points. But yeah, a win is still massive, of course it is. And as a neutral, it's amazing, because if you look up and down the table, we've got a three-way fight for first. We've got a two-way fight for fourth place. Fifth place is looking ever more unlikely that won't become a Champions League place based on the European coefficients at the moment. I think both Italy and Germany are currently ahead of us in the pecking order in the coefficients. So fifth place at the moment is looking like a Europa League, not a Champions League. We've got fights going on for that sixth place between five clubs: Man United, West Ham, Brighton, Wolves and Newcastle, and Chelsea as well. So maybe six clubs are all involved in that scrap. And then down at the bottom, you've got Brentford, Everton, Forest and Luton all scrapping it out for that final relegation place. So much to talk about, so much to look forward to in these final 10 games. It's going to be an amazing run-in. On that note, let's get on and talk about the bottom end of the table. So let's talk about then the bottom end of the table. Let's talk about the relegation battle. Now, I'm going to say outright that I still believe, despite the points that Burnley and Sheffield United got at the weekend, both of them being 2-0 up, both of them not seeing out a victory is massive. Had they have won that game, I still don't think they would have survived. I still don't think they'll get enough points, but it might at least given them a little bit of confidence and motivation to really keep going in the final 10 games. But the fact that they threw both of those leads away, I think really is the nail in the coffin. Of course, Luton play Bournemouth this evening in their game in hand. If Luton win that, they will go out of the relegation zone, if nothing else, on goals scored. If they win 1-0, they'll go level on goal difference with Forest, but I think they'll go above them on goals scored. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So, yeah, it's massive, and that will mean that there's just 5 points separating Crystal Palace and in 14th and 18th in Luton. I didn't actually include Crystal Palace when I first said, but I don't necessarily think they're out of this. I don't think they'll get I don't think they're in any real danger, but they've got to be careful. They've only won one in their last 6 as I look at this form here in the last 6 games. I don't know what it's like before that, but I don't think it's much better. So yeah, how do I think this is going to play out? The one team I really worry about is Everton. Not because I don't think they're good enough to stay up, it's because I just struggle to see where their goals are coming from. They've got the third worst goal scored record in the league. They're averaging just 1 goal a game, 29 goals scored in 28. They're not conceding many, which is their saving grace. They are structurally and well set up, which is kind of what you'd expect from a Sean Dyche team. But I just worry where their goals are coming from. And even if they concede just the 1 goal in a game, more often than not, that's enough to beat Everton. I mean, the stat that was against United at the weekend, they battered United for a good portion of that game, especially in the first half. Manchester United was seemingly trying to put the ball in the net for them at times. And if it wasn't for a combination of great saves from Onana and some very poor finishing, Everton could have been 3-0 ahead in that game. And I think Man United, despite the fact that on paper you look at it and see they won 2-0 and think, well, that was comfortable, it was anything but. Everton deserved at least a point from that game. But you've got to go and do it. You've got to go and put the ball in the back of the net. And it's the same story that I see all the time. They were the same against West Ham when somehow we ended up beating them 3-1. A bit of a smash and grab. Everton deserved something from that game, but they didn't get anything because they couldn't put us away. So I do worry for Everton. I don't know. I've kind of lost track as to what's happening with the points deductions and appeals, and whether Nottingham Forest are on the hook for potentially some points deductions as well. I've lost track of where we are with that. But I do worry for Everton. They're the one team in that bottom group that I really worry about, because I just see a real problem there. Luton are scoring goals, but they're conceding too many at the moment. Their form has really dipped. They're still fighting really hard, but their form has dipped at the really bad time. Nottingham Forest, again, defensively, that's their big problem. Defensively, they can score goals for the most part. They've not scored herds of goals, but they've got goals in them. They've got, on paper at least, a good strike force, but they concede too many goals. They've been getting some rather unfortunate refereeing decisions go against them recently, which has obviously made the news this weekend with Espirito Santo and Morgan Gibbs-White having a good whinge. And rightly so, by the way, a couple of very poor decisions. So they're in trouble. Brentford also, it feels like they're just in cruise mode at the moment. The Ivan Toney comeback effect has well and truly worn off. I feel like it only lasted a game or two. And Brentford are in real trouble. You know, they were, I just don't know. I mean, they played well against Arsenal. I'll give them their credit there. They gave it a good go. And if it wasn't for Ramsdale making that amazing save, we might have seen a goal of the season contender from Ivan Toney in that game. But they're not winning games. They won one in their last 6. But because they are just that little bit ahead, one win from them puts a big gap between the teams below. Now, if I look at the points here, and I'll flash it up on the screen for you as well as I'm talking about this, you look at the number of points that these teams have got. What do I think is going to get you to safety? What is the magic point total that I think guarantees you safety? I'm going to say that a magic total is 35. I think 35 points guarantees you safety. That's 9 points for Brentford, so 3 wins. Everton, that's 3 wins and a draw. 3 wins and 2 draws for Nottingham Forest from the final 10. I think that will be enough based on the current form of those teams there. If you can get 3 wins in your, it sounds ridiculous, right? If you can get 3 wins in your last 10, I think that'll be enough. I just don't see everybody being able to do that. That might be too low. I don't know, but I feel like 35 will do it. Let me just revise myself just for a second here. Let's just take a look last year. What was safety last year? Safety last year was 35. Leicester went down in 18 for 34. Everton stayed up at 36. The season before that, 21-22. Burnley went down in 18 for 35. Leeds had 38. So yeah, I'm about right. And the season before that, there was a big gap. Burnley in 17 for 39, and Fulham went down in 18 for 29. They were 9 points ahead. So big gap there. So yeah, I think around about the 35 mark will be enough. 3 wins from their final 10 will be enough. Perhaps that target could be revised if Luton are to beat Bournemouth this evening, because that obviously condenses it massively. But yeah, Luton would need 14 points, including tonight's win. So they would need tonight's win plus another 3 and 2 draws. So that's 4 wins and 2 draws for Luton to stay up, or to give themselves a real chance of staying up. Who do I want to stay up is the big question. I do want to see Luton stay up. I think they've been it's a cliche, but they have been a breath of fresh air to the league. That sort of tiny, intimate stadium. The fact that they have grown as a team across the season. At the start of the year, I made the bold prediction saying that they'd be the worst team ever to grace the league. I thought they'd be worse than Derby, and it actually turns out that they've been the best of the 3 that came up. Burnley and Sheffield United have really stunk the place up, whereas Luton have really worked hard, and they've not always got the results, quite clearly. But they've always given a really good account of themselves, and they've given their fans some great days to remember if they are to go down. Nottingham Forest, I'm neither here nor there on. I mean, a lot of this is based on personal feelings, right? Nottingham Forest, I'm neither here nor there on. Everton, the same, neither here nor there. They're kind of, both of those teams have been stagnating. Everton have certainly been stagnating for a lot longer. And I think Everton, if they go down, I think it has the biggest impact on them financially. Brentford, I worry about, not just this season, but next season. Ivan Toney is almost certainly going to be going. So however much money they get from him, how they invest that money into that team again and try and revitalise things is going to be so key for what they do next season. If they don't get it right, Brentford are in serious trouble next year, in my opinion. We'll have to wait and see how the summer plays out. I expect Brentford to stay up. I do expect Everton to stay up. I just think that Sean Dyche will get them over the line. I think it'll be close, but I'll get them over the line. So I think it's going to be out of Nottingham Forest and Luton right now. I'm sorry to say, I feel like it might be Luton. They've got this habit this season of always being close, of always just missing out on a result. You know, they've lost out by the odd goal so many times this season, and sort of that constant nearly men type thing with their results, I think is going to cost them. If they just turned 1 or 2 of those results this season into wins, 1 or 2 of those losses into draws, this would be a very different conversation. I want them to stay up, but I feel like at the moment they're the most likely. If they beat Bournemouth tonight, that is massive. That puts them right back in the mix, and they're effectively on a level playing field. So if not Luton, Everton are my next biggest concern, just because of the goal scoring aspect, as we said. So, but anyway, I have to see how it plays out. This is a little bit like the battle at the top. This is going to change week to week, no doubt. 35 is my magic point number, I think, to guarantee safety or to give yourself a really good chance of staying up. So yeah, let's see how that plays out. But it's going to be interesting. Okay, finally then, we're going to talk about Chelsea. Should be a slightly shorter midweek digest this week. We're going to talk about Chelsea. We're going to talk about Mauricio Pochettino because he got a big result on Monday night against Newcastle. Really good result in the end, you feel, for Chelsea. Made a little bit of hard work of it in the end. Was it 3-2 in the end, I believe, with Willock scoring that ferocious strike in the top corner towards the end just to make it a little bit interesting. But it's you're never too far away from a headline with Chelsea, are you? You're never too far away from questions being asked and negativity surrounding everything. And it's largely come from the failed experiment that Todd Bowley has done with the player recruitment and how everything has worked. But the question is that where does Mauricio Pochettino stand here? Because we have seen examples over the last couple of weeks where the fans are beginning to turn. They of course lost the cup final, which against Liverpool, which would have changed the narrative considerably had they have won that. I feel I don't think the negativity would be there if they had won that. But if they win their game in hand, they will go potentially 8th, depending on goal difference and how many goals they score against whoever it is. I think it's Tottenham is their game in hand against. It's very difficult to say because Chelsea's ambitions, Chelsea's expectations have been so drastically reduced over the last couple of seasons that it's actually kind of difficult to know what not only the fans but what also the owners expect from Chelsea. I do feel like Chelsea have similar quarries with their manager, with Pochettino, that West Ham do with Moyes at times. That he can be hit and miss, that tactically it can be off, but at the same time Chelsea have spent an awful... The narrative after games with Chelsea this season has often been dominating games but not being able to score, and I guess that would come down to recruitment, whether that comes down to trying to instill confidence in your players. Nicholas Jackson is, oh my god, he's got to be the most frustrating player in the Premier League at the moment, because I was watching him at times on Monday night in between when we were doing the podcast, and he does some really good things. He really does. He can drive the ball forward, he can get you up the pitch, and then the next minute, you look like, well, he looks like he's never seen a football before. His touch is poor, he tries to do silly things and turn. His finishing at times is absolutely woeful, and then the next minute he'll rise like a salmon like he did, was it last week? I'm trying to remember who they played last week, and head one in the bottom corner. He's such a frustrating, he's like a flawed gem, isn't he? Just like so rough around the edges that you just get these moments of magic and these moments of absolute dross from that player. And it's so difficult to rely on a player like that when you literally just do not know what you're going to get from him. The one shining light, of course, this season for Chelsea has been Cole Palmer. Of all the signings they've made that have not worked on these long deals and etc., he has looked fantastic. Brilliant signing from Chelsea this season. He's been a real talisman for them. Conor Gallagher's been very good, and also Gusto at right back I feel like has had a fantastic season. To me, at the point in the way in which he's playing, I think Reece James struggles to get back into that Chelsea team, because as much as I think Reece James is a fantastic player, Gusto's playing really well, and Reece James is too injury prone. I worry for his career that he could be like another Andy Carroll in terms to just in and out of the team with injuries. So it's good for Chelsea. They've got a ready-made replacement at right back. It was long talked about that every time Chilwell and Reece James got injured that Chelsea really struggled. So the fact that they've got Gusto in there now is really good. They are going to have to move on players in the summer. It's going to be a big summer for Chelsea. Several of their youngsters are likely to move on to help balance the books. But in terms of what the fans want, I don't really know. I think if Chelsea can sneak into Europe this season, which is not beyond the realms of possibility, if they can push their way into sort of that 7th place and maybe Nick Conference League, I'm sure Chelsea fans would much rather be in the Champions League, which is what they've been used to for a good chunk of the last sort of 10 to 15 years. But I feel like that would be progress. I feel like Pochettino will have been able to sort of hold his head high at the end of the season and say, yeah, we've made progress, there's still an awful lot of work to do. But I feel like you've got to give Pochettino to the end of the season from this point forward. I think sacking him anytime now would be really silly, because you can see shoots of of recovery from Chelsea. Every now and then you see a little shoot of recovery, and you just think that with a little bit more joined up thinking with transfers and bits and pieces, rather than trying to overhaul the squad, let Pochettino work with the players that he's got right now, bring in one or two here and there, and maybe Pochettino can do something, and then see how he goes next season. Chelsea fans may disagree with me. Maybe there's other stuff going on behind the scenes. It will be very remiss of me and very hypocritical of me to just outright say, no, Chelsea fans are wrong, you should stick with Pochettino, he's doing a great job, when that is exactly what the mainstream media do about Moyes, and I freaking hate Moyes. So I'm not going to just sit here and say that Chelsea fans should do X, Y or Z, but I would love to hear from you guys, Chelsea fans. Let me know what you guys think of Pochettino. What is the general vibe and feeling of Chelsea fans about Pochettino, about the ownership as well? Winning games, obviously, it always makes things better, it always improves things, it always silences the negativity at a club, but Chelsea, a little bit like United at times, have always got that one or two good results, and then they'll go shit for a couple of games again, and that's when the negativity will creep back in. So be interesting to see how Chelsea do. Obviously the Spurs London derby is a big game. If Chelsea can win that, more power to Chelsea to get them further up that league. But if they were to lose that and lose well, if you like, I know Chelsea beat Spurs earlier in the season in that crazy game where Spurs went down to 9 men. Yeah, the result of that could be quite shaping in terms to how the rest of the season will go for Chelsea and how the fans may react to things. But let me know, Chelsea fans, really keen to hear from you. Let me know what you think of Pochettino. Do you think the rumours about Tuchel coming back are true? Would you want him back? Would you want to drop Pochettino after how long has he been there now? It's been a season. He was there in the summer, wasn't he? So it's been a season. Would you drop him now, or drop him at the end of the season and bring Tuchel back? So it'd be a strange one for me because Tuchel left in a pretty bad. Bridges were burned, it felt like. So it would be interesting to see how that would happen when Tuchel leaves Bayern Munich in the summer. So yeah, let me know. I think Chelsea, if they can sneak into 7th place, if they can continue picking up wins in the manner they did, start scoring a few more goals, positivity will creep back in. I think that they are, for all of their negativity, look at the number of goals scored, look at the teams above them. They've scored more than Wolves, more than West Ham, more than Manchester United. So it's not, whilst they've not scored perhaps as many as the chances they've created suggest they should have, they're not scoring. They've just got to try and tighten up at the other end a little bit. Thiago Silva not being in the team seemingly has improved things, which is odd, because he looked like he was the one constant in that defence that was doing well. But Disasi, Chalobah are seemingly doing okay at the moment. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. So let me know what you guys think. That's going to do us for the Midweek Digest this week. Yeah, 10 games to go. I don't remember a Premier League season quite like this one in terms to all of the battles up and down the league and how tight they are. I think we're in for a really, really fascinating end to this Premier League season, one the likes of which we haven't had for some time. We've had times where we've had close title races between two teams and close relegation fights, etc., but I don't necessarily think we've ever had anything like this. So I sort of want Luton to win tonight to really add to that narrative. And yeah, let's see how it all pans out. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Make sure you like and comment down below. Make sure you hit that sub button, ring that notification bell to get all notifications on future video uploads. And we'll see you all on the next Midweek Digest.